All right.
All right.
Welcome to Coachable. This is Coach Kev Deneen, and for the first time, we are going video plus audio. I have a very special guest on today, Sumit Seth, from a company, not his first company, but from his current company, Naamly, and I'm excited to share more about that in a second. But it was his idea / our idea to go with the video plus audio, and I'm super excited to introduce to you guys Sumit. So Sumit, welcome to the show. How you doing today?
I'm doing well, thank you, and thanks for having me, Coach.
Absolutely, absolutely. So for those who are unlucky to, at least for now, not to know you, tell us a little bit about yourself.
First generation immigrant, came to the US about 20 years ago. Like you said, just fell into fitness because I was in a not so happy place in my past avatar business. And the business of fitness just found me, and I'm very blessed, lucky, and happy that it did. When you're going through the process, it's messy, and you're like, why me? Why now? But when you look back, you're like, that's probably the best thing that could have happened, because had I not gone through that phase, I would not be where I am today, running Naamly and getting to work alongside people like yourself, and just locking elbows with folks that make a difference and make the world a little bit better. So I'm happy to be contributing that way.
Well, I love first of all that mindset, right? Is you had to go through what you had to go through in order to feel and have the feelings that you do today to drive you today. Did you always have that mindset, or is it something that you developed over time?
I think I've always had that mindset. So I've always believed that life is a journey, and you are going through things because you're getting primed or prepped up for what lies ahead. And if you always look back, things always work out, right? Things always work out if you look back and you connect the dots. So you just got to trust the process and say, yeah, God got me. There's something bigger than this. I'm not seeing it because I'm so myopic. In the end, it'll all work out. Just follow the process and just trust that it'll work out, and it does. So
I love that. And for you, your entrance to the fitness industry is a little bit non-traditional in that you're not the guy who works out at Gold's or starts out at an Equinox and then opens his own gym. Tell us a little bit about how you got into the fitness industry.
Yep. So backstory to my background is I've done hospital and healthcare management. My wife comes from a whole big lineage of doctors, and my current partner, his wife and his whole family comes from a whole lineage of doctors. So for us, healthcare has always been mainstream, and that's been, healthcare for us, like medicine, doctors, all that stuff. And when I had my last company, I was just going through a very bad phase. From the outside in, Kevin, if you looked at it, you would think I had it all. I was super successful. I was in my 30s. Like I said, first generation immigrant, which I didn't share came from very modest backgrounds, right? And I remember when I came to the States, I would hop between Burger King and McDonald's to just survive with $1 because they had $1.99 a meal. And that's what I would take every day and then go back and forth between those. So from there, I was doing $10 million in monthly revenues. I was traveling the world. And like I said, from the outside in, you would think, oh, he's got it all. He's super successful now. Only I just wasn't. I was just not happy. I was away from my wife, my kids. My relationship was in the gutters with them. My health was in the gutters. And I was like, what's happening? And thank God for a lot of things to happen and come up together at that time, that perfect storm, as they say, which made me take that first leap of faith, which was like, I just got to get out of this. I can't do this any longer. I mean, I'll die a very rich man, but very lonely. and
Mhm.
and not have anything to talk about. Like, what have I done? You know, I'd be a hypocrite because I used to read a lot of books and like, but what's happening here? So anyways, I did that and made some money, sold my business, fork in the road decision, moved to Phoenix, where I found my personal training coach. And that coach, basically, at sheer luck, was also a gym owner. So I was looking at the business through his eyes. And then the more I looked at his life, I was like, holy shit, this is me. This is my life in a way, because he's getting up
Mhm.
at 4:30 in the morning. He's going out there. He's working his tail off. He's sending one more text that he needs to. He's communicating with another person. He's losing sight of what's happening. And he's going hour to hour to hour only. He's making a big difference in life. People like, you know, me, but he still doesn't make any money. At least I was making a lot of money back then. And you know that feeling when you look at somebody and you're like, I can fix this. I know this shit. I know if you just let me help you, I know how to do these things. And thank God for Jake. He let me, my trainer, and and that's how the business of Naamly founded me in a way. I mean, I found my purpose because of him, basically. So hopefully that gives you a little bit color about the background. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, if I stand corrected, but I think we met, and I met Jake first at the Thomas Plummer seminar in March 2019, maybe April 2019, and he was like, "Oh yeah, let me introduce you to Sumit," and I was like, "Oh, okay." And then that's where we got introduced. Does that sound right? I think he was
Yeah,
at
we did
the.
meet at Tom Plummer event, but you know, so Jake, no, Jake was not with me back
Oh, he
then.
wasn't
No,
there. Okay.
no.
Um, but uh, but yeah. So all right. So in the hero's journey, right, for in the fitness side of things, you kind of, and maybe it wasn't your mentor, right, but you said something very powerful, actually. You said, and I like this expression: if you can see through John Smith's eyes, you can see, or Jane, you can see what John or Jane buys, right? And you said I saw it through his eyes. And so this is where, if you've also heard the quote, if you solve $1 billion problem, but you start with solving it at the dollar or a $10 or $100 level, and then you just scale up. If you solve it for 1 million people, you're good. And I think what's so remarkable about your exposure to not just the original, your original journey, but then the second part of your journey, um, is most unique to me, because you're seeing and solving problems for other people solving problems. So, you're not just behind the scenes, right? But you're trying to make the lives easier of the people that, for the most part, and correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of gym owners. For the most part, and I'm gonna say I don't, but I don't like doing a lot of the stuff that you're helping us with.
Yes, I mean, and
And
you know what? You make the biggest difference in people's life. I don't want you to waste your time doing those little stuff. I mean, it's necessary. It's a necessary evil of the game of the game of business or anything, right? The admin stuff of checking that box, of reaching out, of connecting, of interacting. But what you really want to do is build that long-term relationship, which is what you're so good at, right? As a coach. So, and why do you want to build that relationship? Because you impact that change then, because you genuinely change lives. I mean, I'm a living proof of the life being changed. And because my life has changed, Kevin, people that I'm associated with, their lives have changed for the better. My wife, my kids, my mom, my employees now. Like, I would not be here had it not been for my journey in fitness. And I feel like $1 million now, knock on wood. Like, I mean, I'm a decade in now from the time I almost since I sold my company and stuff. And I tell you, I have more energy now than I had back then, even though I'm older now than what I was back then. So this is all because a coach changed my life. So I think coaches forget that their influence is so much greater than they think and they give credit to. So yeah.
it reminds me, and you remind me of that story of the three bricklayers, right? The person walks by the three bricklayers, and it goes to the first bricklayer, and they go up to him and they say, "Oh, what are you doing?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm building a wall." And then the second person says, oh, what are you doing? And it says, oh, I'm building a wall that connects to a church. And then the third person goes, what are you doing? Oh, I'm building a house of worship. Right. And so the connection to something bigger, it seems like that, and maybe that was your foundation, was your relationship with the gym owner, but your connection to your why / you're something bigger, your in this instance your house of worship, which is serving the people who are serving. And I want to get into the reasons that you started your company in a second here, but I think that's a powerful feature for anybody. But yeah, remarkable for you, because I just look at you. I mean, that's where your energy comes from. That's where you're, and I want to harp on something else too. It's giving, right? It's giving other people an opportunity to serve without these little roadblocks that they have to, steer clear of. So
Well,
that's
thank you. Thank you very much. I mean, there's a quote that goes like something to that effect, right? That a life of giving is one that's worth living, kind of a thing. That's what life is about. And it's funny you said that service thing. I grew up in a school. We went to school, and our motto used to be service before self. And that has served me really, really well, because both financially and relationship wise, it's, if you just give, and if you lead by a giving hand, it comes back to you 10,000 times. Life is a conveyor belt. What you put on it comes back to you 10 times over. This is how I look at it. The catch is you don't do it with expectations, because if you did it with expectations, then it's a marketplace. But if you just pour yourself into it, that's what the relationship is for me. Like, how do I give without expecting anything in return? And I'm not perfect at it. I mean, like the idea becomes, at times you're like, but if you have to take score, if you're trying to keep score, game over, right? You're on the wrong track. Because that's what life is about. That you don't keep score. You're like, I just want to be associated with you. I want to do something with you because you're a good person and you make the world a better place. And I'm not saying it just purely from altruistic perspective. It's just the energy goes up. You're vibrating at a higher energy. And I believe in that voodoo stuff, if you think, but yeah.
I like that. I've never heard that before. So I like that, the conveyor belt and the relationship marketplace. Or the relationships, looking at relationships as a marketplace. But so let's go a little further into the weeds, as far as you're solving a problem that many entrepreneurs who are in the fitness field, but I bet you that's other service industries too, but I want to stick with fitness. You're solving a problem that many, and correct me if I'm wrong, solopreneurs, right? It's like they work and then they have 3 or 4, maybe 5 employees, but the real small businesses, mom and pop shops, but you're solving a problem for them that is simple, right? But at the same token, it is hours of time given back to their week. So I guess this would be your chance to not just sell Naamly, but to give these coaches and gym owners and maybe other people in the service industry some time back. So tell us a little bit more about the problem that you're solving.
So quite simply, like you said, a gym business requires so many moving parts, right? And it takes a tremendous amount of energy to make these pieces work together. From the outside in, it's only 3 pieces, right? How do you acquire new customers? How do you serve them really well? And then how do you take care of the people, your team who serves them? That's really the big pieces. But the devil is in the details. Just servicing your team, your clients, the new members that you bring on, it's a lot of work. It's checking off the boxes of, did I connect with them? Have I gotten back to them? Integrity, right? Did I do what I said I would do? It's checking in on how are they feeling. It's recognizing and celebrating them. It's always showing up and giving your best, like the Disney thing, right? Like you become that third place. Like that's what Plummer would always say, right? Can you be the third place? And to make the business the third place, you have to do a lot. And what Naamly does really, really well is it's the daily operations, the minutiae of things that we help in checking off. So we tell you, here are people who haven't shown up in X days. Attendance is the number one KPI, especially in a training gym scenario, to know if someone's going to cancel or you're not going to be delivering on the promise that you had, right? So we do that part. We tell you if there's someone out, even before attendance, it's like, you get to know if someone's engaged or not. We are the only software that can tell you if someone's engaged or not, just because we give you a visual and keep it simple about this person not been checking in. He's not been interacting with you. You've been bombarding him with messages or emails or calls, but he's not responding back to you. Things that you cannot do with normal technology, normal phones, is something that we've been able to perfect and then some. So our whole goal has become, we drive things by tenets, right? One of the tenets is, how do you simplify to multiply? How do you simplify the game? One. Second is, how do you eliminate to elevate? So what we want to eliminate is digging through information which sits in myriad of systems, be it your billing and scheduling system, be it the client's in-body results sitting there, be it their heart rate in a MyZone. Like these are so many soloed systems, or you have a Scipio or another text service, or you have an email with Google. Like these are all over the place. So we're the system that brings it together so that we can help eliminate the hardcore work that you did, bring back the hours in the day that you have, limited hours, right? Only thing that's limited is time, right? We bring that back, so now you can leverage that time and do higher worth tasks for yourself and elevate the overall customer experience, because good gym owners, good business people know that the money is in customer experience in your current clients. It's not just about sales and marketing, but if you were to look into the sea, every single system out there, software or things that are being sold, is more sales, more leads, better this thing, but there's hardly a talk about retention, engagement, experience, and that's where the money is made, because the money's always made on the back end. So that's what we help in doing. I see you smiling away. Tell me what's going on in your mind.
Well, it's just fascinating because what you're solving for, you're solving for Y, and everyone else is trying to solve for X, right? Like I get phone calls of, I'm going to give you 100 leads. I'm going to get, do you need to grow your gym? And they're all focused on the attraction of clients, which, by the way, is important.
100%.
Right? But we're and I've been in a brick and mortar setting since 2009, and so in some sense we don't. I like to say we don't lose clients unless they move, right? So what happens for us is the game is what you're talking about, which is the why, and that's where your focus is let's give, and I think I have a couple books behind me on customer service. Danny Meyer, I can think of one of them. But yeah, it's really funny that you said that, because the money is, everyone's spending money and creating businesses as an ad agency, as a marketing agency, and you're over here helping to curate the customer experience that serves. So, and again, going back to you're serving the server,
Yes.
Making their life easier so that they don't have to go on, and we won't mention the what business you're going to eventually take off the table. But you're making the life of the trainer and the business owner easier, so that when they want to look at their number one KPI, which is, again, the attendance, right? And this is the other thing that's so unique, is that you're serving people who care about their customer.
Yes.
Right? And I'm not saying that Stephen Ross, the owner of Equinox, doesn't care about the customer, but they don't, when their membership is up for renewal, they're hoping, their fingers are crossed that member hasn't been, because then all the equipment's going to wear down faster. They have to replace the equipment, and then doesn't see the credit card charge. Now, here's the other end of it, which is where you and I are. You're on the serving the server. I'm on the server side. But I can't operate like that. I don't sleep well knowing that that's my business, right? Like if I haven't seen somebody in a while, I'm like, uh-oh, right? Like I get worried, and that's again why I was smiling, because it's just we're in a and this is my lead-in question, but we're in a remarkable opportunity slash time period where the consumer is probably more aware of not just where they're spending their money, but their time, and they want to be associated with a place or an experience that is fulfilling, right? And that is not and that makes them feel like home, so that they do come back for that twice a week, that magic number in the fitness industry. But you mentioned KPIs, and the number one being attendance. What are some other KPIs that you're helping fitness business owners track?
Engagement. So even more powerful than attendance in my mind, because attendance for me is still is a lagging indicator from that viewpoint. It depends upon where you look at it, right? The most lagging indicator is revenue, but revenue is the leading indicator to revenue would be attendance. How many sessions are being done? Because the more the sessions, the person's going to stay longer and pay longer. But even before attendance would be engagement. How engaged is that person with you, the coach, the business? And for us, engagement is all about how responsive he or she is, right? So we help in doing two things. Not only do we show you how engaged someone is, but we also give you contextual information about that person by pulling that silo data from different places, so you can leverage that information to build that authentic connection and use it to have those meaningful conversations. It's all about having meaningful conversations at the end of the day, because the training gym doesn't really need hundreds and hundreds of thousands of members. A good training gym, typically the ones that we work with, are no more than 150 members. You get 150 members in paying $300 a month, you are golden in about 3,000 square feet. You're living the dream. It's a lifestyle business that way, right? If you think about it, you're making an impact and you're making good living, and it's not about getting those 100 leads like you spoke about. It's about getting a couple a month, if you will, and then just keeping them, stay longer, pay longer, essentially. So
I like that. And how you separate the leading indicators from the lagging indicators, I think that's helpful. I think a lot of and this is where I go back to what other people are selling, right? Is they might know marketing, right? And they might know advertising, but they don't necessarily know the client management side of things. So for a new business owner, they might be teaching somebody these skills of marketing, these skills of advertising, and as an ad agency, that's good. However, they're forgetting about this other bucket, right? Of customer service and how to keep clients for longer.
Yep.
So that's interesting. The other unique thing I think people would be maybe surprised to know about you is that you're a constant, well, maybe not anymore, but you're a constant learner, right? And I'm curious, how do you stay current with your, what's going on in the fitness world? Because you're not 1 foot in, you're all the way in. And then what is your, like, how do you learn? Was it books? Is it podcasts? Talk me through that.
So great question again. So you said something about, I think the first thing is you need to be all in. You said about the first 1 foot thing, right? Like you got to be all in. And that's what I love about the coaches too, right? You're master technicians. You're obsessed about providing that amazing service. Like you said, if the person doesn't come in, everyone internalizes that and says, it's my fault, and that just goes to show how big of a heart you have and how caring you are, right? And for me, it's the same thing. It's like, I want to be all in. And I learned now through really 3 mediums, I would say. One is current clients. So I would interact with at least on any given week, at least 10 to 15 current clients on an ongoing basis. And the question is not so much about how are you using Naamly, what's happening that. No, it's more like, what's keeping you up at night? What are you doing now? Why, the proverbial 5 whys. And in intense conversations, I'm just very blessed that people open up and they share and they're like, this is what's really happening and this is what's keeping us up at night. And that gives me windows to seeing what can we do to better it. Or something interesting that you said earlier part of the conversation was, you don't want to lose sight of how your customers see things. What are they really going through? What are the conversations they're having in their head? So that's one way of learning. The other thing is I read a lot of books, right? But I don't read one book at a time. And I don't know if this is a strength or a weakness. I'll have about 4 books being read concurrently. So I'll pick up a chapter here, try to go back and see if I can take a nugget from there. And third is masterminds. I attend and am part of a number of fitness business masterminds as well. That helps me interact, learn, and just broaden my mindset, because that's what the coaching world does. It just helps you to have that growth mindset. It's like, life is happening for me. You got to embrace that and just be obsessed about giving the best you can, because that's where the magic happens, I think. So.
Agreed with that. I love that. And so with these books, because I'm sort of I'm going to say terrible, but good at looking at books to solve a problem. But at the same time, I look at them as an escape sometimes. Do you have a strategy for it? Do you have are you in a section now where you're looking at customer service and all it on the service books and how to do customer service better and how retention strategies and all that thing? Or are you, I've heard some strategies where people read nonfiction in the morning and then they read fiction at night. What is your strategy for managing? Because there may be more, we may be similar in that we have multiple personalities that we are appeasing with books, but also learning. Walk me through, I guess, your strategy for consuming continued education.
That's a good thing. I wish I could read in the morning and night, or maybe I've not prioritized it that much. I mean, a wish is not that good enough, right? Like we all have the same time. If it was important to me, I'm sure I would have made the time. So I don't read every day. I'll probably read 10 pages a day. That's not true. I would. Weekends is when I try to read the most, right? I'll get up early. I'll read some thing. And the strategy really goes, I read a chapter and say, can I just take one nugget in and look at my business and say, are we doing it? Can we change something? and my team, I need to ask my team, but every Sunday or something in the night, I'll start sending out emails like, hey, what about this? What are you thinking? Or I'll buy books for them and say, like, read this and let's come together and say, what's one nugget you think that we're not doing good on? Like, never lose a customer is something that we really embrace, something that we end up buying. The Go Giver is another one that we end up buying for our, you're a big time Go Giver? Listen, yeah, it's one of my favorite books. So it's like you got to embrace and you got to attract those very kind of people onto the team. So you're looking for those traits, and also you're looking for traits that you don't have. So you're looking for the foundational things, and then you're trusting that they will do better because you don't have those skill sets, right? That's kind of the thing. So hopefully that strategy nugget works. It's work in progress, man. Sometimes you go through a binge series where you're like, I'm going to read this whole book in 3 hours, and you just flip through. Some things you just ignore. You just look at the pictures, the diagrams and stuff. And sometimes you got to experiment and learn like 100. Sometimes you just got to learn by doing. Like the book it gives you the nugget, but it doesn't stick because you're not in the right place at that time. So
I like that. I had this conversation with Luca once about a book, and it was by Patrick Bet-David. What was his book? I'm forgetting the title, but Luca was like, "Oh, you have to read this," and I was like, "Really?" I got like 2 chapters in, and I was like, and this was like years ago, and he's like, and he asked me, he goes, "When did you read it?" And I told him, I said, "Years ago," and he goes, maybe you weren't ready for it then. And I was like, oh, Luca, God, knock me out. And I think the interesting thing about what you just said is, and why people, and I used to feel pressure like to finish the book and to like, take notes and give a cliff notes for the people at home, and um, you know, to pat myself on the back for finishing another book. But in the same token, um, I think for a lot of people, it's like if you find, and I've had this happen actually a couple times, but if you find a nugget, like you said, and it's like you got to go, like the Wile E. Coyote, just disappear, go do it right now. You got to serve that monkey mind. But I guess my follow up question, just for the people at home, who if they are in the service industry, and most of them are, but they want to be better at service. Um, Sumit's book club, what are your 3, 5, maybe 10, however many books you want to go? You already mentioned The Go Giver, but what are your foundational books for the readers and the constant learners at home?
Ooh, that's a tough one. All right, okay. What are my go-to books? Definitely The Go Giver
Uh-huh.
is paramount, because it just sets you in that tone of living a life by giving, right?
Mhm.
That's one. Two, I would say, is Think and Grow Rich is a good one too. It's a
So
really,
good.
really good book. And yes, it's a wonderful book. I would say that is a foundational book as well. Third would be, for me, I'm just looking at it. So this goes into running operationally things, right? I
Okay.
now am more about the 12-week, 12
12
work.
week here.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's been a fundament. That's helped us accomplish so much in the business for sure. And I'm thinking, what else? Lean startup for me. But yeah, those are 4 or 5 books. And of
I like
course,
that.
Joey Coleman, Never Lose a Customer. I said that earlier, but
Yep.
those would be my go-to books. And yeah, not 10, but maybe 4 or 5 I gave out there.
No, that's perfect. And the 12-week year is the one I haven't heard mentioned a lot. So I'm curious there, and I get their emails and I follow along a little bit. So I like that. Um, but I told you about my connection with the Go Giver and Think and Grow Rich?
No, no,
So
no. So tell me, please.
and I thought for sure, I was like, the guy who wrote the Go Giver, I'm like, this has to be where he got it. So there's and it's
Oh,
towards the end
yes,
of the
yes,
book,
yes. There's a paragraph early on, right? Or a chapter or
right?
something.
And he goes, the future doesn't belong to those who I can't remember the exact quote, but it was like the future no, it's not, the future doesn't belong to those who go and get things. The future belongs to those who go and give. And I was
Yes.
like, whoa, hold on, hold the phone. I was like, really, I was taken aback by that, and I was like, there's no way that he pulled the Go Giver out of thin air. He had to have. I mean, one of the best, most read books of all time, right? Napoleon, by Napoleon Hill. And so the fact that you said that too is, just icing on that cake.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
but so let's go back to Naamly for a second, because it hasn't been an easy road. You've been building this for some time now. What are some of the, and they don't have to be, I guess, in the weeds here, but what are some of the challenges that you've faced, maybe even generally, and how have you overcome them?
Challenge number one, I did not know a single soul in the space. So, when you start from inside the industry, at least you have friends, people, and it's easier to, I think, to be like, hey, leverage those relationships and say, hey, what do you think? I'm doing this, or get a stage, or expedite things, right? Didn't have that. First challenge. Second challenge is when you do get through, you talked about so much focus is on leads and sales. Most of the people initially don't ever believe they have a retention or an engagement issue. A lot of de-learning needs to happen, because you remember Susie, who shows up and has been with you for 8 years or 6 years, and you only think, like, even you mentioned this, Kevin, and I would invite you and I would challenge you to think about this. Oh, people just leave us when they're moving, right? but do you really look in and open it up and say, oh, what about that trial who didn't convert? He got, or he or she got to taste us, but didn't. Why? Was it something wrong in the experience? Maybe, maybe not. We don't know. Like, how much are you digging in on that part? Or someone who said, hey, it's not affordable, because that's one of the most common reasons that you get. And the human mind is conditioned to ignore the pieces that don't feed the story that you're telling yourself, right? So I think that's been a big challenge, because, hey, everybody must be doing it right if they're all focusing on leads and think I must be doing something wrong. And I don't want to talk to you because I don't have that problem. We're good. Like, and a lot of it is also posturing, is what I've learned in the space. As we give the impression that we're better off than what we are because of our social highlights, So you really don't know what's happening. So those would be the top two. Three, self-delimiting beliefs, man. Like, that has nothing to do with the outside. Everything is from the inside. I just, being a first generation immigrant, I've suffered, still do a little now, about, hey, English is not my first skill. Do I really connect well with people? I don't drink, so how the hell am I going to bond? Those kind of things. I did not grow up here, so I don't know anything about sports. So a lot of these self-delimiting beliefs don't help you, right? So I would say these are the three big pillars. Self-limiting beliefs, one, because if you can overcome your own mind, like, I always think that things happen twice. First, they need to happen in your head. Once there's this paraphrasing, this quote, I don't know where I heard it, like, the war is won twice. First, it needs to be won in your head, and then it's won on the field, because you've already thought this through. You have the vision, you have the clarity. So that's one. And then you go out and then you're like, how do I build relationships with the people that mattered the most to me and that would move the needle? Because not because it will help the business, but it's like, so that I can learn. Like, am I on the right track? I get these gut feel, these urges, what I'm seeing, but how do I validate them? So you can only validate through market research, but doing it with one at a time is fine. But then, can I connect with people who service them and have a bigger field of view, right? So that kind of a thing. So I said that would be the second. And then, of course, then you understand the conversations they're having, so that you can find out how either you change the way you present things, the messaging, as they say, or you find a better way to connect and cut through the noise that makes them believe and see things that you're seeing it the way. So those would be the three challenges that I would say that I've worked hard to overcome.
And what's interesting? I think the most interesting, sorry. The most interesting thing, I think, what you just said, is that there's a theme. You didn't mention management. You didn't mention staffing, right? You mentioned basically self-mastery in many different forms, right? Self-mastery of the things that you can control, right?
So
and
true.
I think for a lot of people, we don't know what the market's going to do. Oh, it's so hard to find staff. Oh, the Facebook algorithm has changed, and the Google ad. You didn't mention any of that. Nothing. Now, and it may be because maybe this is your third war or the third battle for you, right? You had a business before, so you went through a lot with that, and then this is your second. But I imagine that before you committed, and you're all in, before you committed to the fitness industry and to serving the fitness industry, you had to say, I don't want to go in this battle and just fight. I want to go in this battle to win. So the things that you said were powerful in that you're focusing on what you can control and on various degrees, and then but you're also committed all in to winning the battle, right? Like, it's not like you're just like, well, and then I just want to be in this for a couple of years and then sell and see ya. Like, nope,
No.
Yeah,
We're going to leave a
here.
legacy. We're going to create a legacy. That's the whole idea. And
Ooh,
so
I love that word.
yeah, seriously, man. Yeah, that's what's going to happen. We're going to change. We're going to make a dent in the universe, and we're going to make a dent in the universe for people that matter the most, man. And it's sheer. This is for me is divine intervention. That what are the odds that I found myself in the fitness space, in a place, a niche within a niche within a niche, which I had no idea about, coming from what I now believe and I call sick care, like, because that was me, right? And now I believe that fitness is true healthcare. I genuinely believe that. I've drank that Kool-Aid now, and I get to hang out with the world's best coaches. And there's something to be said about the company that you hang out with, right? So you talked about controllables. For me, there's this quote, it's somewhere on my desk and I can't find it, but there's a person by the name of Swami Vivekanand. I'm an Indian. There's some Indian spiritual folks that I follow. And the quote, paraphrasing, goes something to the effect that a drop of water, when it falls from the sky and it comes in your hands, is so good that you can drink. But the same drop of water, if it falls on the gutter, is so dirty that you won't even wash your feet with it. The same drop of water, if it falls on the scorching sun, this thing will perish. And the same drop of water, if it goes into an oyster, becomes a pearl. The point being, surround yourself. The environment matters. If you can connect with the right people and surround yourself with the right folks and have a higher vibration or a higher sense of frequency, you will just attract that. And then you're like, this will happen, right? It's now very clear it will happen. There were doubts before. Now it's like, yeah, it'll happen. It's a given. It's like, how do I expedite it now? So
Right. Huh. I have never heard that.
With that, but yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Well, something I wanted to go back to. You mentioned the proverbial 5 whys. How important and how often do you play that game? First, if you don't mind explaining the 5 whys and where that came from. But how often do you play that game? Because I often play that game from a simple level, and I think I go back to, I'm a trainer first. So when trainers are programming and they're doing something, I'm like, is that a good idea? And then they're like, yeah. And then I'm like, why? And then I kind of, and then finally like, well, I'm not serving the client. But for you and for the 5 whys, kind of talk about. 'Cause I really like this strategy, and it's making me question some things too. But talk about the 5 whys and how important they are for you and how and for management. I know you didn't even mention management, but how important they are for you on your day-to-day, maybe I'll say this, mental operations.
Yeah, it all comes down to mental. I think you have to have mental clarity, and you got to keep this place a sacred sanctuary. What you feed the brain, the mind, is very, very powerful. And like I said, I'm a living proof on a few things. One is my physical health and condition would not be the way it is had it not been for my physical, personal trainer. And then had it not been for my good coaches, this thing would have also not grown to the point where it is now. So yes, the mental garden needs to be fertile. It needs to be good. And just like you got to clean up the cobwebs that develop time to time by feeding it good stuff. The 5 whys, the book, right? You read the book, you stuff things, and then you start questioning things. Simon Sinek used to come up quite a bit on, and then it just connects with you. I guess there's some things that the other saying, right? When the student is ready, the teacher is gonna arrive, kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. So things are around you, but the reticular activation doesn't happen. But when you
hold on, explain that, because I know what you're talking about, but say what reticular activation is.
So the reticular activation is you are ignorant and unaware of all the moving parts around you, right? They're there, but you don't see it. However, once you bring your focus on something or attention, it's like the example is you see a Porsche. Yeah, but now everywhere you'll see the same Porsche. And they've been around you, but till that time, you never knew that these cars existed or they're around you. But now subconsciously, you've triggered the reticular activation. So now the brain is wired to bring those back to you. So it's like, it's no different than I think in my mind, just like you made that discovery of Think and Grow Rich and Go Giver, it's the social media algorithms. If you see bad stuff, right, the algorithm keeps feeding you bad stuff. Can you stop yourself from not seeing that news or that bad stuff and force yourself to start seeing only good stuff, whatever the definition of good is for you? And then you'll realize that's what they feed you more and more. So can you use social media to impact you in a positive way? And so be mindful that that is a distorted picture of reality in a way. But how do you use what is available to you to help you nourish your brain and grow and move forward, keep moving forward?
I like that. I like that. We've talked about a lot about you, and I want the people to get to know you. But you and I have also talked about the fitness industry as a whole. What are some of the trends I don't like that. What are some of your predictions for where the fitness industry is heading?
I genuinely believe training gyms are going to dominate the space. And that's, like I said, sheer divine intervention. I happen to be at that crossroad, right? And I'm in the space now. So training gyms will continue to grow, but especially because of the things that you mentioned, and also especially after the pandemic, where health is wealth mindset has really settled in with people. As they continue to age, there is a lot more realization that if you can't have that quality of life, what's the point? So the quality of life will come from training gyms. And two, the realization that personal trainers are truly, genuinely the preventive PCPs or primary care physicians of the future. I genuinely believe that's what personal trainers are. They are the true healthcare providers, true healthcare, right? Not sick care providers of the future. Mm-hmm. 3, it's all about the customer experience. It is all about the customer experience, and good business people will recognize that. So if we can get our customer experience game dialed in, it will make a tremendous impact on the bottom line, on the lives, on the livelihoods of the coaches. And so I think big picture wise, those would be the 3. Something that would stand the test of time would be, it's a very relationship-centric business. Build relationships. We say we're building relationships, but then we miss out, and then we start keeping score. We start saying, oh, I didn't get what I put into this, and that's not relationships, right? So that a feeling of care, like you do those things, focus on simplifying. So things will become more simpler, and it would be another thing is what I would see, moving to platforms like ours, which become the one-stop shop, would be another big thing that I see. Like, the role of technology is always going to be there. Technology is here to stay in some form or shape. And while there was an upswing on Pelotons of the world during pandemic, I think nothing takes away the coach's touch. No one can ever take that away. And I think that's where the service industry, especially the tactile part of it, will go a long, long way. That's me. That's what I think.
That is powerful. I like that. I think of like a simple number, like you said, the primary care physician, right? Or the primary care provider, a physician sees a patient one time a year, and a personal training client at twice a week sees somebody 104 times, 104 over 1.
Yeah.
Then it raises the question, if if the medical slash if the healthcare field had an interest in the client at heart, then every doctor would have in their network 300 trainers, right? Because then they would never have to search for a patient again. They would probably get them in more regular because the trainers would be like, you need to go. You like they'd just refer out. And the fact that and this is a whole other separate thing, but the fact of trainers who I know trainers who are afraid to raise their prices. We're raising our prices for the first time in over 2 years. But and I know some trainers are like, oh, you're raising your prices, and I'm like, yes, because you're worth it. You're going to go to a continuing education event. You're going to continue to provide more than XYZ. But and you need to provide for your family too. Everyone else is raising the prices too, by the way.
Yes.
So and then the other thing that you just said that I liked was, and I'm thinking about is kind of relationships over reps.
Yep. That's the way to
Like
do it.
just how simple of a phrase. So I like that.
I would say though, the reason why though doctors don't have trainers underneath them and all of that stuff, there's no money there. The healthcare industry thrives through pharmaceuticals. And if you're healthy, then you don't need pills. And where's the money, right? That's why people lobby for pharmaceuticals and no one lobbies for people that genuinely
trainers.
make a difference in trainers. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, I would be on medicines. I genuinely, that's what I mean. I mean, I can connect the dots. Had it not been for my personal trainer, I would be on medicines. And I would not be living my life. I am alive now. I am living my life. And gosh, it's like the best analogy I can give is glasses. When you don't have glasses, you don't know how blurry the world is because you just think that's the way the world is. But when you get glasses on, then you have clarity. Then you see things. And then you feel like, oh my God, this is what I was missing out on. So I'm living that now, So, and it's just because of personal trainers.
Did you just make that up?
No,
Okay.
Oh yeah, I made that part up. Yeah.
I'm thinking to myself, man, where did that quote come from? And you just go, oh, my head.
Yes.
How fun. Well, I know we both have timelines for our day, but where can folks find you and find more about your mission and your company, Naamly?
Go to naamly.com, NAAMLY.com. I'll share this last thing with you if this helps. Why Naamly?
Sure.
Naam in Indian language means name. And all of us are born with one name, like that name is given to us. And throughout our life, the karma or the deed that we do either elevates our name or brings it down to the ground. And Naamly, the company, we want to be that company that helps in elevating the name of the entrepreneur, that gym owner that put his name on the line, took out that lease, started his business, said no to the world. We're like, how are you going to be a trainer? And just followed the path because they believed in it. And we want to be that company that, like I said, it's all about joining them and playing that little part in their success and growth.
That is, man, it's funny. I'm taking all these notes and it's, a whole sheet, by the way, taking all these notes and then you leave us with just this huge wrecking ball of a quote, powerful stuff. Sumit, thank you. This has been fun.
It has been amazingly fun. Yes. Thank you for having me. I so appreciate you, Kevin. I really do.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, that's all I have. Until next time. We kind of left on a little bit of a cliffhanger with the healthcare, but that's all I have for now. And yeah, thanks again.
Thank you. Let me